This video brings us to the end of my plan for the prototype, but there's still a lot of work that could be done. I'll fix a serious memory leak that's been in the design for the last 8 videos, we'll add a few minor fixes before discussing some game mechanics that I left out. I'll also add more storyboards for the mission briefing so there's more content to look at when I host this on the web. Finally, I'll close with some final thoughts on this project. We're going to hit a few of the low-hanging fruit in our code base. We won't be adding any features, but I'll discuss some ideas of where to go next. First, let's take a look at a serious memory leak. We'll run in debug mode and watch the memory usage. At the main menu, we're using about 95 megs of total memory. When we hit the mission, the video memory kicks in with our world and 2 minimap surfaces, which brings us to 260 megs used. Let's self-destruct and go back to the main menu. Well, the memory is still allocated, even though we're outside the mission. I bet you can guess what happens when we go back to the mission. That's right. Every time we start a mission, we allocate another 160 megs of memory. How many times can we keep doing this before something goes wrong? If you followed along, you know that I've taken the time to free all data structures and surfaces when an object is destroyed. Well, one idiosyncrasy with GameMaker is that a room ending sequence does not explicitly call destroy on all objects. Let's go back and tell both the map and the HUD to call destroy when the room ends. Now we'll test again. See that? Now our surface memory is returned to the system when the mission ends. There's probably more memory leaks somewhere, but this should keep things going for a long while. While we're talking about the map, let's go to the surface draw event. There's a minor bug when we skip scenes before the mission and the engine still has the drawing alpha set to a low value. If we time it just right, the background world will also be drawn at a low or 0 alpha and we can't see anything. Let's just fix that by forcing maximum alpha on map generation. Now let's talk about collision tiles in the minimap. We have to make some tiles passable by making sure they're properly handled by the collision map. I'm talking about 15, 16, 56, and 57. That's hex F, 10, 38, and 39. Note that this procedure is only good for episode 1 and should be extended to handle all 3 BLK files. But we want the desert to look like desert on the minimap and not just some open space. So let's add a minimap drawing check to draw sand-like color if the tiles represent desert. That's not what I'm after. I must have added the wrong tiles. This should look like sand, but it doesn't. Oh, okay, yeah, this should be F and 10. There we go. Now our collision is better and the minimap looks good too. To make the minimap look like the original game, you have to handle about 3 more colors than what we have here. So in the original game, the player's ship couldn't go right to the end of the map without bouncing back and receiving a warning message. I left a comment in the code to add that later, so let's do that now. Now the edge of the map acts like a barrier. There's a rare bug with the HUD ticker that happens when you skip to the mission while the engine is drawing center or right aligned text. The text will be misaligned, and we can fix that by forcing left alignment. So I've left out a couple of game mechanics, such as the comlink. Now the reason is that we never really went beyond mission 1 and building everything out. We pulled the sprite out, and it's more of a matter of creating a new pop-up object during the mission that blocks all physics processing and displays scrolling text. Another game mechanic we didn't get to see is the nighttime and infrared vision. Again, the reason is we don't get to see that until mission 4. Now the easy way to handle that is to just use blend modes to overlay a blue or red rectangle over the map. Now some platforms may not support blending, so there's an alternative, and that's to store a copy of each sprite 3 times pre-processed for blue and red filters. Let me show you what this would look like if we implemented it. I drew the nighttime on the left and the infrared view on the right. Setting the mission to nighttime would draw everything in blue until the player hits a button to turn on infrared. This would have to be implemented at a higher layer than what I've demonstrated here. Let's comment out that code. Let's fill in some of the content that I left out because let's fill in some of the content that didn't come up during our testing. We'll add all the ship statistics that I skipped a few videos back. Now when you play Beyond Mission 2, these ships will behave appropriately. There's a lingering issue that we didn't fill in all the weapon behaviors. Let's go fill in the weak gun since they appear often. Most of the weak gun ships fire 4 shots per volley. And we don't have a lot of game content in here, but let me show you how we'd go about filling in more briefings. We just extend this storyboard array from 1 to 59. Now there actually is a minimum array that would constitute a mission. Each mission is guaranteed to start with a banner and also an SCR screen. Now we could put a commented minimum array at the bottom here that future developers could copy and paste in. However, hard coding the storyboards in the game engine like this isn't the best way to go. We should consider moving all of the game content to external files loaded at runtime. That way, many people could contribute to filling these out. Now if we know what the missions are, we can fill out all of these storyboards quickly. The biggest chore is figuring out which dialogue index to assign to the scenes. Most of them are in order, but not always. Plus there's an issue when there's a mission failure, those scenes are stuffed in between the regular dialogue scenes. We can speed this process up with IDA Pro, or by using a hex editor to edit save files to check out all of the missions and assign a dialogue scene. Dialogue is still easier than scripting mission waves and events. With focus, I think you could probably knock out maybe 15 missions an hour, so we're still looking at a full day's work in getting all the dialogue in place. Now let's look at the dialogue sequence for the first 5 missions by skipping the action gameplay. Now it looks like there's a bug there. Robot Veil doesn't come along this early in the game. That must be a problem with the dialog file containing a non-UTF character that GameMaker didn't properly handle. Looks like there's a crash bug after Mission 5. I'm pretty sure that's because I didn't drag in the 55 other mission files. That's a simple drag and drop since we've already created them all. So the other part we need to do is fill out those 3 content scripts for the 58 other missions. Now this is a bit more tedious because you have to use IDA to figure out which ships are in which waves. Now my guess is that you could fill out about 4 missions per hour, which is still a solid weekend worth of dedicated effort. So that brings us to the end of the prototype. I've shown you how this codebase could be extended to be a full remake. Now I recommend playing around with more features here in the prototype, but then taking the learning experience to the next level by building a full engine just for the game. Now since this is about learning, I recommend C and SDL to try to solve the game problems in a strictly procedural fashion. Maybe one day I'll add more videos showing just how to do that. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and please pass on what you know.